Chris Christie back in the news and back on offense after an internal review cleared him of any wrongdoing in the Bridgegate scandal. The head of that investigation and a competing one in the state legislature are both here live. First, the backstory from ABC's Jim Avila.
Excuse me, stop.
Chris Christie got his mojo back.
Can you get to it already?
It took nearly 3 months and $1 million taxpayer dollars for a hand-picked law firm to find it, clearing the New Jersey governor of any responsibility for Bridgegate. The scandal had knocked some of the swagger from the governor. Look at Christie's face 76 days ago when his deputy chief of staff's famous email humiliated the then front-running GOP presidential candidate. And look at him now, when asked why he was kept in the dark by staff.
That's not a revolving door where anybody can walk in anytime they want on any topic and just willy-nilly have at me. I mean, I'm the governor of New Jersey.
Chris Christie may be feeling pretty good about the investigation he could control, but the next two he cannot, including the one underway here at the State House in New Jersey and the next critical one, the U.S. Attorney's probe. The federal investigation could take 2 years to complete, but with the endorsement of his own lawyers, Governor Christie began a media blitz this week that began with an exclusive ABC News interview with Diane Sawyer.
This report says that I had no knowledge of it before it happened, and nor did I authorize it or have anything to do with it. And that's the truth.
The report and the governor blamed that fired Deputy Chief of Staff, Bridget Kelly, who released a statement calling the report venomous and offering to cooperate with the federal investigation if granted immunity. For This Week, Jim Avila, ABC News, Trenton, New Jersey.
We are joined now by the co-chair of the Legislative Committee investigating this matter, New Jersey Assemblyman John Wisniewski. Thank you for coming in this morning. You know, you've joined the critics of this internal investigation, calling it a whitewash. But has your own investigation turned up any bit of evidence that showed that Governor Christie either knew about this slowdown or authorized it?
Well, we haven't had a chance to talk to some of the key players, as this report has not either. Bridget Kelly, who sent the email that said time for traffic in Fort Lee. We don't know why she sent that. We don't know who authorized her to send that. It's hard to believe, understanding how this governor's office works, that one morning she woke up and decided, I think it'd be a great idea to cause traffic.
But you have not, to be clear, though, you have not found any evidence yet.
We have not found any evidence, and we're not finished. You're
not finished yet, but why do you have any reason to believe that Bridget Kelly is going to talk to your investigation? She's made it pretty clear through her lawyer that she's only willing to go forward and speak to authorities, law enforcement authorities, if she gets some kind of immunity.
We're waiting for Judge Jacobson's decision on the documents. She was a state employee. She has an obligation to make those documents available. We believe that we'll have an opportunity to look at those documents. I think they will speak volumes as to what we need to know to move the investigation forward. But it's far too early to start concluding that the governor knew nothing, had nothing to do with this. It's just far too early.
Well, you had the same documents from Mr. Wildstein that has gone to the Mastro committee. Again, nothing in those documents that shows he knew about it.
There's the email that goes between Mike Druniak and the governor, where he marks up the exit statement for a man that only weeks later, the governor said he barely knew. And so it really begs the question, is the governor so deeply involved in crafting an exit statement for David Wildstein, yet had no knowledge? What I'm saying, George, is it's far too early to draw any conclusive decisions about who knew what in this investigation.
But if you're not going to get key testimony from these key players, why not just leave this to the U.S. attorney?
Well, we don't know what we're going to get. We're waiting for Judge Jacobson's decision. I think we ought to wait for that decision. We ought to look at the rest of the documents. We're still going through thousands of pages of documents. This report draws a lot of conclusions and speculation. There's no footnotes to any of the testimony that was taken or interviews that was taken. This report really rushes a judgment that is too early to make.
Okay, Mr. Assemblyman, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Randy Mastro, the head of that internal investigation, joined us now. You just heard Mr. Wisniewski says it's a rush to judgment.
Well, George, we looked at over 250,000 pages of documents, interviewed more than 70 witnesses. And as Mr. Wisniewski just admitted, we haven't seen a shred of evidence that the governor knew anything about this lane realignment decision beforehand. If it were there in the hard evidence, we would have seen it. They've got all the documents responsive to our subpoena relating to the George Washington Bridge incident. They have the same information that we have. And Mr. Wisniewski and his committee have been at this for 5 months.
How do you respond to this charge of conflict of interest? Your own law firm was also working for the Port Authority. Isn't that a conflict of interest on its face?
No, it isn't, George. The representation of the Port Authority, which has been cleared by the Port Authority, was something where both governors' offices agreed that my firm should represent the Port Authority. We had access to Port Authority documents as well. Let me be clear. We've had no incentive at our law firm to do anything other than to get to the truth. We will be judged at the end of the day by whether we got it right. And George, we believe that we got it right. We had to work even harder to get it right.
So much of this hinges on Bridget Kelly, and her lawyers put out a very harsh statement on your report. Here's what it says. It says, this report's venomous, gratuitous, and inappropriate sexist remarks concerning Ms. Kelly have no place in what is alleged to be a professional and independent report. The only credible investigation into the land closings is being conducted by the U.S. Attorney's Office. If Ms. Kelly were provided with the appropriate procedural safeguards, she will be fully cooperative. And she's not alone in saying that, including some of these details about her personal life, describing her as emotional, was sexist and gratuitous. Your response?
I'm glad you asked, because we treated both David Wildstein and Bridget Kelly exactly the same. They deserved the assessment that we gave both of them about their personal conduct and about their actions exactly the same way, because they violated the public trust, and that's what the evidence showed, George. All of it relevant to not only their consciousness of guilt, but their culpability. And in Bridget Kelly's case, if I may say, Bridget Kelly not only sent the email that showed ulterior motive, time for some traffic problems.
What is that ulterior motive?
Yes. Well, George, I'm glad you asked that too, because we say what we know and what we don't know. We can't establish what the ulterior motive is because we didn't have the chance to question Kelly and Wildstein. But George, it's obvious there was one to target Fort Lee and the mayor of Fort Lee because of Bridget Kelly and Wildstein's exchanges. And if I just may say this, George, Bridget Kelly not only sent the email that said time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee, she then, after the fact, when the governor sent his chief of staff to find out whether she knew about this beforehand, she called a subordinate that night and asked her to destroy incriminating evidence. Bridget Kelly is at the heart of the problem here. So is David Wildstein, and they were both treated exactly as they should have been in our report. They abused the public trust, and they should be held accountable for it.
Final quick question. Are you confident that your report will not be contradicted by the U.S. Attorney?
George, we are, because we had no incentive to do anything other than to get to the truth. And I have to say this, for the skeptics out there are some who have a visceral reaction to this bridge controversy. It reminds me of the movie line. They can't handle the truth. We believe we got to the truth, George.
We will find out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.